Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have a very special panel, Dealer Solutions and Design. And Ted, designing service departments that drive performance is really an incredible part of the conversation in our industry today.
Sarah, you're so right. We're really honored to have Eli Crawford, Vice President of Business Development, and Brian Redman, Business Development Manager. They're with a company called the DSD Team, Dealer Solutions and Design. And our topic today is designing service departments that drive performance. Eli and Brian, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Well, Eli, to kick things off, there's a lot of conversations nationwide at dealerships. OEMs are, continuing to revamp the customer experience and partnering with their dealers to really make sure that their facilities and the expectations match what customers are looking for today. So, Eli, to kick things off, I'd love to get your perspective on what themes are coming up most often when you're talking to dealerships entering into 2026.
Yeah, so it's funny. I think fixed operations for a really long time, it was that thing that just stayed in the back of the building. They produced and they made the dealers money, and then somewhere along the way, probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think the code was cracked on what fixed operations can really do for a dealership and a dealer group.
Mhm.
And navigating from the EV boom, I would argue that started in 2016, where OEs were really pushing that EV infrastructure and making sure that dealerships were set up for that, whether it be in the parking lot, the shop, everything in between. And now transitioning to where EV is still around, but it's not as prevalent, or it's not pushed as much as it was. I think now what dealers are having to navigate is, okay, we're dealing with inflation. Everybody got a little bit spoiled in 21 and 22. Now we're kind of back to real life. How do we keep our costs down? How do we make sure that we're taking care of our customers? And how do we do all that while still maintaining what the OEs want us to do with our dealerships? Which that's kind of where we come in, specifically on the back end with the fixed operations. Right now, cost per square footage when building a new facility has never been higher. Equipment selections have never been more difficult because of all the manufacturers that are out there. Price increases come with that. So really that's, in my opinion, that's going to be the biggest navigation, is not necessarily making sure that we're keeping up with OE standards, which they need to, but how do we do this cost effective to where we're spending the right way, but still being able to produce for our customers?
And Brian, to piggyback on what Eli is talking about with this, what he just mentioned with the cost for upgrading these facilities. And one thing comes to mind, not only with EVs, but with the vehicles in general, we're seeing more complex software that's requiring specific spaces that some of the programming has to happen because you can't have, for example, a drain in the floor so that it messes up the calibration or different things like that. So they have to have a dedicated place. But I'm curious, are there recurring challenges like that almost every dealer is facing right now with this increase in technology expectations from the OEM and the vehicles?
Yeah, absolutely, Sarah. Hunter ADOS has just released, their new big program, and when we're in the early stages of designing these facilities, these machines and the software they needed requires a lot of space, and so we're able to come in and provide that with the architect to provide the space that they're going to need when they're putting these ADOS systems into these dealerships, and that's really a lot of the value we bring to a lot of these fixed ops departments.
Yeah, and if I may piggyback on what Brian just said, a lot of that isn't. It's not even necessarily. It's ensuring that it is planned out pre-construction because of the costly change orders that could come if it's not taken into account early. I mean, it's nothing for us to be speaking with new potential dealer client partners, um, and them tell us horror stories of six-figure change orders because the electrical outlets were wrong in the service drive. Or, I mean, even something as simple as, hey, we're a 15 bay shop. We didn't plan for the data and the electrical for the workstations in the correct way. And now the electrician is having to come back after the shop is already open, disrupt the technicians. And oh, by the way, there's a six-figure price tag attached with that. So, um, allowing us to be able to look at a set of plans before a new construction or an expansion takes place and be able to work, like Brian said, be able to work hand in hand with that architect to coordinate all of the MEP requirements, all of the electrical callouts. That's really our value add.
Well, and Eli, it's incredible to hear that you're helping dealers recognize these challenges that could potentially come up early. There's, like you mentioned, I mean, I've seen BDC departments that were in places like prior parts warehouse that weren't wired for that purpose back when they were originally created, and so now there's additional challenges with adapting the space that they have into new things. But Eli, I'd love to get your perspective because, as Ted and I are seeing the industry continue to evolve and change at such a rapid pace, what surprised you the most about what dealers are prioritizing this year?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah, because had you asked me this 2 years ago,
Yeah.
EV is the answer. And it's not that that ever went away. There's still a lot of EV planning, especially with a lot of the German manufacturers. Um, so it's still definitely in the conversation, but really it's space, it's optimization of the space, and it's how can I use this square that this brilliant architect gave me, and how can I make to put it bluntly, how can I make the most amount of money in this space?
Mhm.
And that's probably going to be my answer for 2026 and 2027 and 2028. Because I feel like, again, the code has been cracked on the fixed operation side.
Yeah.
We attended an NCM course last year, I believe. And the number that popped out to us and that really stuck out the most, per bay, per minute, parts and labor, dealers are grossing roughly $3.14 per bay per minute, which is, we've heard from multiple dealer partners of ours that that's actually a pretty conservative number. So you start doing the math and you say, okay, well, I'm a dealer group and I've got 25 rooftops. That number starts to add up pretty quickly. So it's okay. How do we meet OE standards, whichever OE it is, but how do we get the most amount of bays still meeting those requirements so that we can make the most amount of money? Again, all with the end goal of serving the customer. So Sarah, I think that answer is still spacing, and how do we make that work?
Yeah. Okay. Eli and Brian, Sarah and I have had a chance to travel around the country and see a lot of the facilities that your organization has designed. So, congratulations to you on
Thank you.
some beautiful dealerships and facilities. Eli, it seems like the term fixed ops is becoming the front of the house is really true. And there's a lot of focus now on what's happening behind that, what used to be the garage door behind the wall. Now it's out in the open. And now the customer is much more transparent with what's happening in service and parts. You gentlemen are a big part of that at what you do with your company. So I want to just kind of follow up with some of the things that you mentioned. You mentioned the EV service needs. When it comes to operational shifts for dealers, what are some of the things that you are seeing and hearing out in the marketplace, whether it's EV, whether it's the technician shortages we've been hearing about, or the customer expectations that are reshaping fixed ops? And I'll put that out to both of you, whoever wants to take that.
Sure. Yeah, I can take over for a little bit on that. Yeah, in regards to what we're seeing is, yeah, obviously technician shortage is a big issue right now. But also, when we're coming in and designing these shops and we're giving them these beautiful workbench stations, these layouts, all the equipment they need to be successful, and also seeing other companies provide dealerships providing other tools that they've already got in place for them really drives technicians to come in. So a lot of these technicians, getting them back in house when everything is laid out for them in the back end is really helping them out. As far as is there anything else, Eli, that you would probably be seeing or?
Yeah, well, and I think again, not to leave any of the manufacturers out, but Porsche has done an unbelievable job of really turning the service department into almost this seamless, whereas a lot of dealerships, it's you've got the showroom, you've got offices, and then tucked in the back where a lot of your customers can't really see is the shop. And Porsche has done this incredible job of, hey, we've got their client base specifically, they're usually car people and true car people. And these are large investments. So they want to be able to see that, if their car is undergoing surgery, they want to be able to look through that glass and see what that surgeon is doing to their vehicle, to their baby. And that's something that we're seeing a lot of the manufacturers actually pick up on, to where when we're designing these shops, you don't want tool storage right in front of a window, because when you have a customer come in and
Sure.
they want to see their car being worked on, they don't want to look at a dirty uh, engine crane or a parts washer. They want to be able to look at an alignment rack that's flush, it's clean, everything that we have in mind when we're looking at a shop layout with an architect. Yes, we want to make sure that it's functional and there's not as many footsteps that have to be taken for the technician to get to a parts counter, or whatever it may be. We're also looking at, okay, what's going to be the most attractive thing for this dealer's customer base? What are they going to see when they look out in that glass? Are they going to see
Yes.
stuff laying around everywhere? Or are we going to see clean, like Brian mentioned, clean workstations, oil and air reels in the ceiling that aren't leaking? Just being able to be fully transparent, it also helps that dealer be seen as a trusted advisor to their customers, to where they're not hiding anything. Um, it's good for them. It's good for us. It's good for everyone.
I mentioned that Sarah and I have traveled the country. We recently did one of our Fixed Ops Roundtable pop-up events at a very big Porsche dealership on the West Coast, and just amazing to see that facility and that window on the shop, and how the customers now involved in the process can see what's going on. We actually did a lot of interviews with the technicians there. We mentioned, Brian, the technician shortage, and the
Yep.
technicians. Like coming to work. They like the facility. They like all these nuances, and it's actually helped that organization, which has I think 160 techs in their multiple stores, attract more quality technicians to come on board, because it speaks to the mission and the values that that organization has, and it's certainly worthy of the Porsche badge and the Porsche name. So again, congratulations to you on that and elevating the game in fixed ops. Let me ask you both, any operational gaps that dealers tend to underestimate the most that you're seeing out there, in designing these facilities, or prepping for them as well?
Yes, I'll start. As elementary as it may seem, for the shops, tool storage. That's the one thing. We'll have a lot of our architectural. We consider them allied partners, whether they're general contractors or architects. When we get a drawing from an architect, and actually allow me some time to kind of explain our process, because
Okay.
I think that would help bring some clarity to this question. For us, say it's Jane Doe Automotive, and they're getting ready to build a Ford dealership or a Chevrolet dealership. They would have a client, or pardon me, they would have an architect on board, and that architect, they have a million different things they have to worry about: signage, permitting, engineering. parking. There's all these different things that when they get handed a DID book from that manufacturer that they have to touch on. The one thing that architects don't have to worry about when they're working with us, and this is the dealers love this because it allows their architect to focus on all the different things that they have to do to be compliant. Architects send that to us and they don't have to worry about the fixed op side. So the parts department, the service department, the collision center, car washes, anything in that fixed ops umbrella. So we'll get that drawing, and usually it's a box, and that architect will say, hey, do your thing. I've got lines in there, but whatever you guys want to do, do it as long as we're not moving walls or taking walls out. Because although we do stay at Holiday Inns every now and then, we're not architects. So, that's one of the things that we're able to do is we've had the beauty of, for the last 20 years, all we've done are service departments and parts departments and collision centers. So we get that drawing based on the OE standards and requirements. We'll go through and we'll provide a layout. And typically we'll pick up 1 to 2 additional bays, which I know sounds insane, but it's something that we're able to do through our process. Again, still staying under those OE guidelines. And based on that NCM math, $3.14 per bay per minute parts and labor, sometimes that number can turn out to be $350,000 to $400,000 extra a year gross that dealer is going to be able to see. So that's one of the things from an operational standpoint that we're able to see very early on, specifically in new construction, specifically in renovations and expansions, is okay, you've got this certain amount of square footage. Let's see what we can do to optimize that, still giving your technicians space to move around and be able to work on a vehicle, but let's optimize that. And so kind of back to my tool storage answer, tool storage is one thing that technicians never have enough of. And if you want to talk about something that can muddy and murky up a shop quickly, it's random big tools laying around the service center. So that's as elementary as it is. I would say not allowing DSD to look at a layout and not being able to optimize the bay count or the tool storage. But Brian, you may have something to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go into what we were talking about earlier. I think also for the shop as well as climate control. We look at shops all the time down in Florida, even down near Miami. Some of these guys are still working outdoors just
Yeah.
overhead, and
Yes.
bringing climate control in
I can.
is huge. That's and that, having the ability to drive that also really brings the shop to life and keeps everybody on board.
Well, Eli and Brian, just talking about these pieces, I think it's interesting to note. So we have, a lot of variable ops and fixed operations leaders that are listening to our conversation today here at the roundtable. And one of the things that Ted and I have seen, continue to evolve over the last 6-7 years with the roundtable, we've seen so many more conversations, continue to put fixed operations front and center. But Eli, historically, a lot of the facilities are built kind of in the sales frame of mind. It's kind of built around the sales, experience and the front of the house. But you're so right with what you're talking about. With how the shop, there's little pieces that actually create capacity constraints that aren't necessarily a people problem. It's actually more a facility problem that's causing some of the inconsistencies. And so, Eli and Brian, when you walk into a store like you're describing, what are the signs that a dealership is underbuilt or no longer serving what it should be?
Yeah, I can answer a little bit on that. Yeah, so we walk into a shop and you see a shop that's long wait times, 2 technicians to 1 bay. Um, those are just a few examples as to why a shop is underbuilt. For an oil change, taking a few hours is extremely long. When you're building these new bigger shops, you have your own, quick service lane that can handle, 4 or 5 service bays that are just catered to just that. So yeah, when we're walking through shops and you see service lanes that are backed up and technicians, 2 or 3 in one bay, that's when it's time to expand and get a bigger shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I couldn't have said that any better. The other, the thing that I look at and that our team will look at, little things that might not necessarily be an issue now, but prime example, Kia, Hyundai, two brands that historically might not have been seen as, I don't want to say desirable because
Sure.
those are both
Yeah.
unbelievable manufacturers. But when they
Yeah.
first came onto the scene,
They've come a long way. Yeah.
they've come a long way. And if I could not tell, well, I could tell you how many Hyundai and Kia dealerships we've done over the last 3 years that have been expansions.
Yes.
Because when those dealers first got those points, there was an assumption that, hey, 8 bays and we're good to go. We're going to sell as many cars as we possibly can. We're going to do a good job, and this is going to be a really great add to the portfolio. Well, now that add to the portfolio has turned into their bread and butter.
Yeah.
It's the highlight of a lot of these dealer groups. So hats off to Hyundai and Kia both. They've done an incredible job, especially with the way that they've handled Genesis and how sophisticated and how luxurious those points look.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, couldn't say enough good things, but um, a dealer needs to be able to look and think to themselves, when I'm building this dealership, I need to have expansion in mind because inevitably a Kia or a Hyundai is going to happen again.
Yeah.
Whoever the manufacturer is, it will happen again, and you will have to be able to add on. And we're able to look into a shop and see pretty quickly, okay, you're not seeing the issue now, you're not feeling the pain now, but those 4 detail bays that you have inside, great idea, great for whether it's a third party or if you have detailers that are on payroll. That's great. That's awesome. But those 4 bays, that's a lot of wasted real estate, and you might not even know it yet. So those are things that we look at, when we're building a new building or we're helping build a new building. I think Brian may have alluded to, or Ted, you may have mentioned it. Floor drains. What type of floor drains are we putting in these detail bays to where when the OE comes to you and says, hey, Mr. Dealer or Mrs. Dealer, you need to add 4 bays? Well, instead of just being able to go out to detail and say, hey, let's pop some lifts in here and let's rock and roll, now you're having to build,
Yes.
you have to spend more money to put an addition on to the back of your shop. So those are the things that, along with what Brian mentioned, things that we're looking at when we walk into these shops and say, how can we help these dealer partners?
The products have come such a long way, Sarah, and the examples that we're hearing today are also the ones that were many years ago. Toyota dealers originally started off in gas stations, and now as the product got better and better, the customer expects a facility that's going to meet or exceed what that product does, and it speaks volumes. And we're speaking today to Eli Crawford and Brian Redman. They're with a company out of Atlanta that works with dealers and works on building facilities and looking at the future and looking at the customer. Very important what Dealer Solutions and Design is doing. I want to ask both of you, as you travel the country, what are some of the highest performing stores that you visit have in common? What do you see? Because here we are talking about layout, and there's also workflow for impacting efficiency for the technicians. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer a little bit on that as well. Obviously, the biggest thing is management, right?
Yeah.
When you're driving into a service lane, it's busy, and you see the service manager, and he's out in the service lane, and introducing himself, making sure you're taken care of. I mean, that's huge. That's one of the big things that I see is a manager being present, being there to talk to the customer, interacting. with everybody and making sure everybody's taken care of is what I'm seeing is what's driving success on the back end.
Yeah, well said, Brian. Um, Along with that, we've had we've been very blessed in the last 20 years. It'll be 21 this year, but in the last 20 years, we've had the opportunity to partner with a lot of publicly held automotive groups, a lot of privately held automotive groups. We've completed over 2,000 projects. And when I say 2,000 projects, that's full-fledged facility projects. So we've had the good fortune and the blessing to be able to see a lot of shops,
Yeah.
and everything from how to handle quick service, not wasting time. I shouldn't say wasting time, but having dedicated quick service versus just bringing that into your shop and taking up those technicians' time and their ability, to tech locker rooms and taking care of those technicians. You talked about technician retention, just being able to, which I guess honestly falls back on management, which Brian mentioned, just taking care of the technicians, taking care of the customers, and understanding that fixed operations is a really big weapon that they can utilize in growing their business.
And Sarah, I'm thinking also female technicians, which are now becoming more and more prevalent in dealerships, and designing the facility with them in mind as well, Sarah.
You're so right, Ted. And there's so many aspects that DSD can really help with in dealerships and fixed operations departments. So Eli and Brian, as we come, towards the end of our time here, I want to pose to y'all a little lightning round question because we have, a lot of our retailers that are listening today. I think one of the things that Eli and Brian have touched on has been their ability to consult with dealerships on this and really advise them and look at their facilities and give them some opportunities for wins. So, lightning round question, gentlemen. What about solutions that dealers can implement immediately? What are some no construction adjustments that if they're looking at their shop right now, they can go ahead and capture some of that lost time and efficiency quickly?
Yeah, I would say right now what I've been seeing a lot of is oil. They're looking at oil lines, they're looking at airlines, start running air and oil to their lifts instead of having to go back and forth to the parts department. So that's a big thing that we're seeing right now is getting lines put into their facilities, keeping track of where the oil's going, and again, really narrow down their time.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say ensuring that their equipment is not only inspected, but making sure that they've got all the proprietary information that they need, specifically with Hunter equipment, making sure their lifts are up to date, just not only from a safety aspect, but allowing their technicians the ability to do their job at a more efficient rate.
Gentlemen, the world is going to converge on Las Vegas next week. It's the annual NADA show. Sarah and I will be out there, and I understand that you gentlemen will be there. Solutions and Design DSD team as part of Safeguard Products International. I see a booth scrolling at the bottom. You're going to be in the West Hall, booth number 4943, West W. What can the folks coming to NADA expect this year? Again, I know you'll be meeting with them. What kind of things do you typically discuss in these meetings? Are these early stage conversations? Tell us a little bit about more what we can expect next week at NADA.
Yeah, well, so I think the one thing we can all agree we can expect is not a snowstorm. uh, yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah. But you know, we're extremely honored to be a part of Safeguard Products. They're a strategic partner of ours, which is great because it allows us the ability to be really creative with how we serve clients, both on the variable side and on the fixed side. And they've got a phenomenal booth and they do an incredible job. But as far as just conversations that that we're going to be having. It's, hey, are you building? Are you renovating? Are you expanding? What does that look like? And just, can you allow us an opportunity to look at your plans? Doesn't cost a nickel. And
Mm-hmm.
let us see if we can optimize that layout. Let us see if there's something we can bring to the table, bring to you, Mr. or Mrs. Dealer, that will allow you to make more money and will allow you, again, to serve your customer better.
I love it. I love it. DSD team, everybody. Um, if you're going to Las Vegas next week, stop in and see them. NADA booth number 4943 West. Sarah and I will be out there as well. And we will be interviewing Eli and Brian as part of that. And we're looking forward to that. If you're not going to NADA, you can visit them on the web and take a look at dsdteam.com and start the conversation. We are so honored that we're having this conversation on the future of fixed operations and what some of the best dealers in the country are doing today. And again, Brian and Eli, thank you so much. And excited to hear what's next and to see what's next because you are working on some very fascinating projects.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And trust me, the feeling's mutual. We really appreciate it. And if anybody needs anything, give us a shout.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Everybody, fixed operations is now the front of the house. And when it comes to facilities, this is the team you need to be speaking to. Dealer Solutions and Design. They're an Atlanta-based company. They'll be at NADA next week. You can see the booth scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Thank you, gentlemen. Brian Redman and Eli Crawford from DSD team here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.